mostly about security, um, ownership, and best practices once sharing proprietary and uh, private information, PII, also into AI.
Trustworthiness of AI and human oversight. So it is interesting to see that we still need to assess the credibility and the reliability of the information that it's extracted from AI tools on a regular basis. And regarding human oversight, emphasize how the human or the role of a human is irreplaceable, and there's also human judgment needed in validating AI tool outputs and the information that it's using.
So what we centered on mainly was this balance between using AI to provide learner experience, like enhanced learner experience, versus trying to attain specific learning objectives.
So yeah, there was two key themes really that kind of merged into one. So we had some comments around security and how policy was viewed upon within AI, and then we talked about kind of what skills L&D professionals are going to now need to leverage AI. But one kind of linkable theme is whether the policy aspect is going to hold L&D people back in terms of leveraging AI.
Is what are the best practices when using AI for privacy purposes?
So the best practices generally are don't share. If you've got proprietary or really private information and you're using what we call one of these global instances like the ChatGPT general portal that we can all jump on, that is not a safe place. And I've said before in this group, if you're not willing to email something randomly to 10 people somewhere in the world, don't put it into ChatGPT, because you simply don't know how it works with it. It will take some of it, and you never know in whose prompt somewhere in the future some of what you've shared will show up as an answer. That's just something you cannot guarantee. And here we talk about global and local instances. So the ChatGPT is a global instance. We're accessing the big system, and the big system is learning from us while it's helping us do certain things. A local instance would be when a company purchases the product and installs it locally behind the firewall. That local instance would no longer communicate with anything outside of the organization. That would then be a place where you can share internally. And there are slowly more and more vendors who are offering solutions with that local instance. That's where you can then share private information, proprietary data, and all those kind of things safely. And as Luke mentioned, this is a huge problem right now, because if you're in the corporate world, you're held back a little bit. Whereas if you're in the freelance world, you can try out more and do more things, right? You wouldn't share anything that your clients are wanting you to work with specifically, but you have that freedom to work with different tools and try different things. It really depends on each instance. What are the best tools? And that's where I often come back to. Don't start with the hype. Don't say, what are the coolest tools right now and how can I deploy them to my problem? Start with the brain of the learner, the kind of thing you're trying to learn. Is it, like I said, is it practical? Is it more theoretical? Is it more knowledge, or is it more applied? Work with those two things and then work backwards and see what the best tool is. In some instances, you will still get to the point that you say an in-person workshop with a small group of people will be the best to train this. And that is then the right answer, right? For other things, AI might be able to help, and we can now build more adaptive learning spaces. We can have more elaborate branching scenarios because we don't have to program them all by hand arduously. Those things are now possible, and with the chatbot, we can also play around. The system is unbelievably useful for things where there is no one correct answer. I know in learning, we normally focus on the correct answer, but that's more educational learning. When we're thinking about training, when we're thinking about situational practice. Just like this manager might have different types of responses, and you can learn from that. That's where the system is really good. If you have a difficult email to write to someone, the system, and there's no one way to do that email, right? Then a system like that can really help, and you can say, this is what I'm trying to say, these are the complications, how do I word this? And I need a soft touch here. If you're an L&D leader and you want to upskill your teams, you can give them space to try out things. You know, it wouldn't be directly on the project that you're working on, but you can give them space to maybe utilize their own private machine to play around with certain learning design elements, play around with scenarios that are maybe nothing to do with the current objective within the L&D team. And just to add to that, maybe, I think in this fast-moving world, these communities of practice and these conversations are far more important than previously, because that's where we can share with friends, with colleagues whom we trust. We can share challenges, we can share ideas, we can openly share things that went well, and we can also openly share things that went wrong. And that's the way we can stay on top of things without just waiting for the corporation to produce a training or bring someone in.